How's it going, everybody? This is Matt Arndt coming to you. I'm going to talk to you today about the Antiquities Act of 1906 and how it has kind of impacted agriculture. It's a state that applies to the western U.S. and it was established in 1906 by Teddy Roosevelt. And the basis of it was he wanted to establish national parks, and he thought that was important and thought conservation was important, and so this is kind of how he went about it. And so basically what it does is it lets the executive branch declare certain public lands, whether they be BLM, so federal lands, Bureau of Land Management, Forest Service lands, or some state lands, and it gives them the power to declare them as national monuments. And so what does that mean? That basically means that a national monument cannot be used for any further recreation or development or any agricultural practices, which includes ranching and forestry. And so why does this matter to agriculture? Basically, if any of you are not from the western U.S., public lands ranching is a very big deal there. So basically all the ranches in the western U.S. are set up on some type of public land. You'll have like a deeded amount of acreage that is yours. That's usually like your headquarters. And then all of your range land will be basically all federal land, and you have those allotments to graze your cattle on. So about 20% of the nation's cow herd resides on these ranches. There's about 22,000 operations in 14 U.S. states, and the interesting thing is that these ranchers are responsible for the upkeep of the lands. So they've got to upkeep the fences and the wells and some of the overgrowth, the vegetation and stuff like that. So public lands ranching contributes about 18,000 jobs and about $1.5 billion in contributions to the economy. And so this is important because when this act is utilized, the ranching operations must cease. And it puts ranchers out of business, and it really does a lot of detrimental things to the rural economy in these small western towns. So what do we do from here? There needs to be some type of reform to control this. The Department of Interior's got kind of a steep task to take on with this, but they've got to put some type of acreage cap on this act. They've got to figure out how to limit the number of acres that the president can deed as a national monument with just the stroke of a pen. So we can't just have millions and millions of acres be turned to monuments. Hence, not just ranching is gone, but forestry, hunting, fishing, you name it. Any type of recreation besides riding a bike or hiking. No motorized vehicles or anything. It's pretty extreme. So we got to make sure that there's some type of cap on this. In some recent action, I don't know if you guys have heard in the news or not, but President Trump and Secretary Zinke, he's in charge of the Department of the Interior, they've kind of worked together on this, and they issued an executive order actually this week to review this act. And so what they want to do is they want to basically turn the power back to the states, and they want the states to decide what is best for the land. They want the states to look at their economies and their conservation practices and how they want to go about it. And then it's not just some federal land grab, as a lot of people think it is. And it kind of gives some power back to the states, and they can decide what they want to do with it. It's definitely a relief that they're taking action on this. The previous administration put hundreds of millions of acres into national monuments, and really kind of decimated the cattle industry and the forestry industry in some parts of the country. One of those was Bears Ears National Monument in Utah. That was one of the big ones that President Obama signed as a national monument. Another one was going to be one at the Grand Canyon, but he left office before he was able to do that. So anyways, I hope you guys learned something, and thanks for your time.